Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Amanda, Crew and Carlos Santos, but there's something wrong with the children on digital on demand January 17th, and it's going to be available on MGM Plus March 17th. Thank you both for your time.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Your energy is contagious, and I feel alive and awake right now.
Well, it's a great movie. I went into this movie like really fresh, not knowing much. And first off, I feel like the name of the movie is not There's Something Wrong with the Children. I feel like you have to shout it, right? The movie's called There's Something Wrong with the Children, right? Can we agree with
all
that?
caps.
Yeah.
All caps.
Especially
we
the
try to
title
get some
sequence.
exclamation points, but they wouldn't take them.
Yeah, I know. But like, especially the title sequence, Carlos, like it's just like boom, like in your face. There's something going on. Carlos, I'll start with you. I mean, it's an exciting time for the horror genre. I feel like the genre always kind of changes and grows, and there's been a boom in the last 5 years where it's one of the biggest genres out there. What's it like working in horror at a time where it is massive specifically?
Ooh, I'm super excited. I feel like I've been manifesting working with Blumhouse for such a long time that when it actually happened, I was so excited. But yeah, I was ready to go because my only experience was with horror comedy.
Yeah.
10 years ago, I did a horror comedy. So I think I would been marinating on it and I was ready to go for the real deal.
No,
Carlos
absolutely.
was like the most game for it. I've done quite a few horror films in my career. So it's kind of, the excitement of like getting to, have blood on you is like, I'm done with that. It's not, I mean, listen, there's blood. I don't know. Yeah. But Carlos loves all of it.
I was in it.
His enthusiasm was contagious.
See, I don't get fazed by gore in horror movies anymore. Like, I remember seeing like a documentary about the making of, and it was like food coloring and everything, and like, it's always like fake to me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get fazed by the gore.
It's more the cornstarchy of it all.
Manda, it's interesting too because you've worked on a lot of TV shows and movies where it's like ensemble cast and working with a lot of people. This is pretty cool because you're working mainly with 3 other actors and 2 kids for most of it. So does the mindset change a little bit? Or is it all kind of storytelling from working with a lot of people but having kind of specific scenes with only a certain amount of people?
I think what's fun about having a more contained cast is you have more opportunity to really bond. And I think that plays then on screen. Like we got along so well, and I know every cast says that, but we really did. And you're spending so much time with the same people, and going into it, you're like, hopefully they're cool. And luckily they were cool. But I really like the small contained cast versus the ensemble because you can really ground and root yourself within each other. It's really hard sometimes when you're tossed into the deep end on some of this stuff. And so to establish that safety and trust within a small group is really, really cool. And I think kind of played on screen for us really well.
Where was like that? It also looked very like cozy where this was filmed, like those cabins. Like I just imagine like in between breaks, there was a lot of card playing. Like it looked like it was like a good time, like where you guys shot this.
Where?
Well, no, I'm just saying where it was. Like it looked like very cozy and everything.
It was. We spent a lot of time at the log cabin, pretty much just hanging out.
Yeah.
So whatever you were seeing there, that was also our green room.
Oh.
Exactly.
The movie also does a very good job of blending like traditional horror elements with like, in my opinion, like the new elements of horror where it's like not relying on like the jump scares and the gore, and there might or might not be that in this film. I don't want to go into big spoilers or anything. I want them going fresh, but like conversations between your characters, it's like makes you feel kind of like freaked out a little bit, like what is happening? There's all this tension, right? Like people are scary, right, Carlos? You know what I mean? Like, what do you notice that in the script, like the new blend of genre elements of horror and the old as well?
Yeah, I feel like it's more, it's almost a little bit more connected to human connection.
Yeah.
I think I said connection twice, and I think you get it. It's just tethered, it's grounded, it's grounded when you can play with both. I think one heightens the other. And I think it does a really good job in this one.
I think that was like Roxanne Benjamin, our director, did a really, like she was very intentional about tone and performance and the way that the shots were and the edit and everything. She had a very clear vision of what she wanted to do. And I think it plays like it shows on screen, like her intention with all of this.
Well, I don't know if you've had a chance to see some of her past work, but like, I don't know, like there's a movie she did called Southbound, which is like
I haven't seen it.
Unbelievable horror movie. And it's pretty crazy because you look at that film, you look at this film, it's like they go these directions. Like this film went directions that I wasn't sure was going to go, to be honest with you. And I think that's like the point, right, with all this. But like, you're just kind of going for a ride. Amanda, is it like in your conscience when you're making films, knowing that like the audience member is going to be like a detective watching these movies? Because you have to pay attention with this one specifically.
Yeah, I think for the most part, I try not to think too much about that because then it kind of gets in the way of my performance. I think there's some times where you do need to know what is trying to be, you know, what the jump is and to play into that. But with Roxanne, she was always so clear about what she was doing. So we really didn't have to kind of figure that out for ourselves. It's like she would always tell us if she was trying to accomplish something specific so that we could like focus on bringing the, you know, like Carlos said, it's really rooted in these real relationships. So we could focus on playing this true and not get lost in kind of like, I got to do this thing. Again, props to Roxanne. She's an incredible director.
For sure. No,
it's important to have that discovery at the same time as the audience, which is why I never read the script. No, I did, but it was but it was that kind of experience that I was trying to have and to remind myself not to think too far ahead, because that's also part of the fun.
I really want people to go in with this like not knowing much, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I feel like the experience, like I didn't know much about it. Like you read like the log line, you go in, you watch it, like there's no hints or anything. It's great. Just like watch it. Like just avoid just avoid trailers, in my opinion. Just go in and watch this movie, because do you agree with me a little bit, Amanda?
Yeah, it's my favorite way to watch a movie is to not know anything. I remember seeing Midsummer without knowing anything, and it just blew my mind because I had no idea what I was going in for. Peter, let's bring you to every interview because your enthusiasm and you just sell this thing, and I love you. Like you're really great.
No, I really appreciate that. No, but it's exciting. But here's the thing: you are both working on like Carlos at the start of this interview. You're working on a Blumhouse movie. Okay. So it's amazing. It's incredible. I'm so happy for you guys. If we're not excited about it, like what's the point of all this, in my opinion?
Yes.
There it is.
You know what I mean? And shout out to Headified on Netflix as well, because Carlos, I'm a big fan of that show as well. And I've interviewed JJ about that a few times. Is it a weird kind of transition going from, like you said, like comedy, like Kentified, and then going to something like this for you? Or is it all kind of storytelling and it just kind of felt like a natural kind of change for you a little bit?
It was the first time that I've been allowed to have children in a project, so I feel that was a different experience.
Yeah. Well, you're like a father
there was a lot of there were a lot of like firsts.
Yeah.
Blumhouse, having children, getting to talk to them in Spanish. So it was just a wonderful, like really, really great experience. It was a first for sure.
But it's all storytelling, right? Like no matter if you're making people laugh or making people freak out or cry, like it is all storytelling, right?
Oh yeah, it all comes from the same place. I feel like good comedy and just as good drama is grounded in some kind of reality. And I feel like for me, it wasn't too far. It's not a road too far.
Is there a time also in like kind of similar to my question to Carlos for you, Amanda, like you worked in like horror, like you mentioned, you were part of the Final Destination franchise. You've worked on like comedies like Silicon Valley and Sex Drive. Like obviously you go where the opportunities are, but it's pretty cool to think that you were able to work in all these different genres. Like I'm going to go way back to Whistler was a great show as well. You know what I mean?
Whoa.
So, yeah. So I'm just saying.
He really knows my resume.
There's a lot of these shows, you know what I mean, and movies of different genres. Does that kind of like just happen, or do you hope that kind of happens?
I mean, for me personally, I hope it happens. Listen, as an actor, I just think we're lucky anytime we get to work, and I'm not going to pretend I have this career where I get to cherry pick everything that I get to do. But I am so grateful that I have been able to work on so many different kinds of genres, because for me as an artist, it's about just exploring different things, and I get bored very easily. So it's fun to play in a lot of different genres and mediums. And so I feel very lucky to have gotten to do so many different kinds of roles in my career.
I feel like I'm walking on eggshells with this next question because again, it's not really a spoiler, but it kind of talks a little bit about. I mean,
watch yourself.
No, we're not going to go that route. I'll go another question. Well, no, there's a lot of elements at play with this film, Carlos. Which elements kind of stood out the most? Was it kind of the, like you said, kind of like being like a father, like the family element with like the couples? Was it kind of the straight up like horror element of it? What was the thing that kind of drew you the most, like at the end of the project, you would say?
I think it was definitely like the symbolisms and the things that Roxanne was playing with. Like I got him right away, and the whole thing about family, which could be a beautiful thing, but it could also be a very
not beautiful thing,
horrible thing. Spoiler alert. And I think it's played great because that's how good horror is. Like you take these themes that are part of the human experience, and then you turn them and you flip them with the horror genre. And I think that's what this kind of plays on, and I really appreciate it. It's interesting.
Yeah. And again, Amanda, this is also something you're not thinking about like when you're working on it, but I'm sure like when you rap, you're doing interviews and everything, it's cool to think that there's something wrong with the children will be like one of those movies, like, because spooky season is a thing, right? Like I watch a horror movie, sometimes I go crazy. I watch 2 horror movies every night in October, basically. So I do like 60 movies. It's nuts. It's a combination of the ones I love that I rewatch and then like new ones, but like, this is in there, right? This is going to be on heavy rotation for a lot of people like the horror movie marathons. Do you like, it's pretty cool to think about that as well, right?
I think that's what I appreciate about the horror genre is that there is a fan base there that so appreciates it. And I don't know, the fan following in that genre to me is one of my favorite because they're so passionate. Yeah. And it's always just nice to do stuff that's appreciated and received. And I think the horror fans are like peak fans.
Yeah. But, people are going to be able to see this very soon. They're going to be able to see it on demand on digital January 17th. And then it's going to be available in March 17th on MGM Plus. Carlos, when they get a chance to watch, there's something wrong with the children. What are you hoping they get out of it, takeaway wise?
First of all, I think the biggest thing the biggest takeaway is be careful about Airbnb. I think that's like your choice. No, I think it's. I mean, honestly, it's just gonna be a fun ride. What?
Spoiler? No, I'm just.
Spoiler alert! Yeah. Be careful. Just read the recommendations.
Think twice about children potentially.
Because there might be something wrong with it.
No, I think it's gonna be great. Honestly, the least, like you said, the least said the best, because you don't know where this is going, and right around the last lap of the movie, I think that's when everything clicks in. Yeah. But I think it's going to be a fun ride, fun contained ride, and I think that we had a lot of fun making it, and I think people are going to enjoy it. I
can't wait for people to see it. Amanda, Carlos, thank you both so much for your time. It was so great chatting with you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, brother.
There's Something Wrong with the Children is going to be available on digital on demand January 17th. It'll be available to watch on MGM Plus on March 17th. Until next time, this is Amanda, Crew, Carlos Santos, and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.